All right, some Be Healthy news now. There's good news, bad news when it comes to childhood obesity. Let's start with the good news. Obesity rates for American kids have leveled off. But a new report finds that children and teens at the far end of the spectrum are getting heavier, and they're getting heavier faster. So that means nearly 4 million U.S. youth fall into a new category of severe obesity risk. Now, those kids have higher rates of weight-related diseases, things including type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. We were just talking about juvenile diabetes and obesity. So joining me now to talk even more about this is John Muskrat, Executive Director from JDRF, and Scott Christensen, whose son was just diagnosed with diabetes. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Scott, let's start with you. Your 5-year-old son, when he was 4, suddenly you get word that he has diabetes. Tell us a little bit about his story and how it's affected your family.
Okay. Well, it was Valentine's Day that he was diagnosed. We'd had a few days of accidents overnight. He was wet in his bed more than is typical for that age.
Right. Yeah, because that happens at that age.
It does, and as a parent, it's hard to know when something is atypical. This week, after a few days, it was obvious that this was atypical.
So you went in for bedwetting, and then you find this out?
Obviously as a parent, you start to do research,
right.
And what we found is that excessive drinking and excessive peeing is a sign of type 1 diabetes. So we went in almost expecting this diagnosis.
Really? Because you've done so much research on your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
What we weren't prepared for, though, was how much of an impact it actually is. Growing up, I knew people with type 1 diabetes. I think most people did. And they were always able to manage it and never really showed how much work it was. And so we were surprised.
How much work is it? For people that don't know, that are thinking, I wonder what you're alluding to. It's an everyday thing, and it's all day long, isn't it? The monitoring.
All day, all night, and I had no idea. My little sister actually has type 1 also, and her onset was in her 20s after she was away from home. And so I never lived with her with it. I never saw what she actually went through, and I've apologized to her many times since then for saying, I'm sorry, I had no idea.
Right.
And it's really incredible what an impact it is in the family.
And Scott, you've heard the story. I'm sorry, you've heard the story many, many times, the one that Scott's sharing with us.
Right.
I'm sure the JDRF is a really, really good resource, a great outreach for families in this situation.
Yeah, JDRF, our primary mission is to raise money to fund research, and that research both ultimately one day will lead to a cure, but also do things along the way that will make Jack's life and Scott and Jessica's life easier living with the disease. So there'll be therapies coming out in the near term that can make, sort of take some of the complication, the risk of living with the disease away from them. But in addition, JDRF does do outreach. We do support groups where parents get together, talk about some of the challenges they face, and also try to connect some of these families with clinical trials and other things that can empower them a little bit.
Has it been helpful, Scott, to talk to other families in the same situation?
Oh, absolutely. We just recently went to a family diabetes camp, and it turned out to be a wonderful thing. And it's staffed by doctors that we learned a lot from, but I think the best part is being there with other families that have been dealing with this.
Nice to know you're not alone.
To know you're not alone, and to hear tips that they do, and also know that, no, it's not weird to be getting up multiple times every night to check blood sugar. And there are people that do this, and it affects them, but they get by and their kids do well.
And how is your son doing? How is he coping with this? Because he's young. I mean, this is a lot to take on when you're 5 years old.
It is, and he's doing great. I don't think we could ask any more from him.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. This is what the JDRF tries to do, right? To put families in as best a situation as they possibly can be in under the circumstances.
Right, to help them live and manage with this disease. As Scott mentioned, it's a very complicated disease to live with, very difficult to manage, unpredictable how you're going to react to it. So, providing that support, but also funding research that will give them hope for an easier, better life for their kids.
John, we're looking at some video from one of the walks. We have a bunch of walks coming up again this year. You do this every year. You have to have money to pay for all these different resources that you offer these families. This is one way to do it. Tell us about the walks.
Right, the Walk to Cure Diabetes is our biggest fundraising events of the year. We'll do September 29th. I think this one is Rensselaer Field in East Hartford.
Yeah, it looks like it.
And we do another one up in Springfield up at Six Flags, New England. So it's a chance, obviously it's our big fundraiser, but it's also a chance for families to come together. They can celebrate, the challenges they've overcome the year, connect with other families. So it's an empowering moment as well as a big big fundraiser for us as well. We're looking to raise about $1 million combined with all these walks.
That would go a long way,
yes.
I bet. Yeah, a lot of big smiles on the kids' faces there as well. It looks like a great time. Scott, is your family going to go?
Absolutely.
Good. That's great. Well, stay in touch with us. We wish you all the best, and thanks so much for sharing your story. And keep on doing what you're doing, John. It's really, really great to see what's happening over there.
Thank you. I appreciate the
So
time.
here's some information. You can learn more about the JDRF Walk to Cure Diabetes. We have a link on our website. It's NBCConnecticut.com. Just search JDRF.